Every single morning, Daniel drives a leased silver Audi A6 into the company garage, parks near the lobby, and walks inside wearing the expression of someone who has it figured out.
He earns $91,000 a year. His net worth is negative $4,000. 3 spots deeper, Claire pulls in at 8.15 and a 4. Your old Honda Accord she purchased outright for $19,800.
There is a small scuff on the passenger door she has never bothered to repair because the car runs exactly as it should.
Claire earns $108,000 a year. Her net worth is $1. $3 million, same employer, comparable salaries, worlds apart financially.
If you stood in that garage and tried to identify the wealthier person, you would almost certainly guess wrong.
That gap, that enormous, compounding, life-defining gap, did not begin with inheritance or a stock tip or an unusually fortunate year.
It began with a monthly payment.
This video is about what actual wealthy people drive, why they drive it, and what the research behind their choices reveals about the decisions that separate people who build real financial security
from people who only appear to have it. Let's get into it. Start with the numbers, because the numbers immediately dismantle almost everything most Americans believe about wealth and cars.
Thomas Stanley's National Survey of Millionaires, one of the most comprehensive studies of Hine, net worth American households ever conducted, found that the median vehicle purchase price among
millionaires was $31,367. Among people worth $10 million or more, that number rose only to $41,997. Now hold it against the current market reality. The average new car transaction price in the United States has surpassed $48,000.
That means the typical American is spending more on a vehicle than the typical millionaire spends. The average person is outspending the wealthy on cars.
An Experian automotive study confirmed the pattern from a separate angle.
Among households earning $250,000 or more annually, people fully capable of purchasing any vehicle outright, 61% drove Toyotas, Hondas, and Fords.
Not Porsches, not Mercedes. Reliable, practical, unglamorous transportation. Only 39% of those high-earning households chose a luxury brand at all.
The most common car brand among American millionaires, Toyota, followed by Honda, then Ford. Mercedes appeared fourth.
BMW fifth. Less than a quarter of millionaires owned a vehicle from the current model year. More than half drove something at least 2 years old.
The average millionaire's vehicle was 4 years old with approximately 41,000 miles on the odometer.
These are not people who cannot afford better.
They are people who have learned something most of us were never explicitly taught, that the car is the single largest recurring wealth destruction mechanism in the average American household.
Outside of real estate, and unlike real estate, which at least carries the possibility of appreciation, a car never gains value.
Not once. From the moment you drive off the lot, depreciation runs in one direction and does not stop. A new vehicle loses approximately 20% of its value in the first year alone. By year 5, depreciation has consumed around 40% of the purchase price.
By year 7, the vehicle is typically worth less than 1/3 of what you originally paid.
According to Experian, the average new car payment in the United States hit $767 per month by the end of 2025.
A growing share of buyers now carry monthly obligations exceeding $1,000. Loan terms of 84 months, 7 full years of payments have become normalized.
That means millions of Americans are paying every single month on a vehicle worth considerably less than what they owe for the majority of the loan's duration.
They are financially underwater on a machine that continues losing value while they make the payments.
Instead of directing that money towards something that grows, they are feeding it into a depreciation engine, month after month, year after year, across entire decades.
Let me show you exactly what that costs in practice. Daniel's Audi lease runs $887 per month on a 36-month term.
Over 3 years, he will pay $31,932 and return the car owning nothing, no equity, no asset, just a receipt for 3 years of payments and a decision to restart the cycle.
Going back to a modest car would feel like a regression, so he will likely repeat this pattern for 30 years of his working life, paying an average of around $870 per month for vehicles he never
actually owns. Claire bought her Honda for $19,800 in cash. She plans to drive it for 8 years.
Her total cost of ownership, purchase price, routine maintenance, and insurance differential averages roughly $310 per month across the life of the vehicle.
When the Accord reaches 150,000 miles, she will sell it for approximately $8,500. Apply that toward a $22,000 replacement and repeat the cycle.
The monthly gap between Daniel's approach and Claire's is approximately $540.
$540 a month, invested consistently at a long, run average return of 8% annually, compounds over 30 years to roughly $808,000.
Read that slowly. $808,000 from one gap between two car strategies, not from a business, not from a windfall.
From a single recurring financial decision made at a dealership and repeated every few years across a career.
Claire's $1. $3 million net worth did not come from a trust fund or an unusually fortunate investment. The Ramsey Solutions National Study of Millionaires found that 88% of American millionaires are self-made. Claire is one of them. She built her wealth through the sustained difference between what she earns and what she allows herself to spend.
The car is the single largest place where she protects that difference.
By any reasonable estimate, her vehicle strategy accounts for well over $700,000 of her current net worth, more than half of everything she has accumulated, traceable to a single recurring decision she made at 27 and has simply repeated since. The Ramsey study found that 94% of millionaires consistently lived below their means. Only 31% ever averaged a six-figure income across their working careers. 1 in 3 never earned $100,000 in any single year.
The 5 most common professions among the millionaires surveyed: engineer, accountant, teacher, manager, and attorney.
Teachers, people whose compensation is frequently treated as a cultural punchline, were appearing on millionaire lists more often than surgeons and technology executives.
Because the job title does not determine the financial outcome, the gap between income and spending determines the outcome.
And the car is the single most common place where average Americans blow that gap open in the most expensive possible way. Before going further, nothing in this video constitutes financial advice. What follows is data. Draw your own conclusions from it. I want to walk through 3 specific reasons why the vehicle, out of every possible spending category, separates wealth outcomes more cleanly than almost anything else.
The first reason is scale. A car payment is typically the second largest monthly expenditure in an American household, exceeded only by housing.
At $767 per month, it represents more than most people save, more than most people invest.
When that single line item inflates by $300, $400, or $500 above what reliable transportation actually requires, the excess overwhelms the combined effect of every other cost reduction measure.
Person might cancel every streaming subscription, make coffee at home every morning, pack lunch every day.
Clip coupons, negotiate bills. The total savings from all of those behaviors combined still do not close the gap between a $400 monthly car payment and a $900 monthly car payment.
The lattes are not the problem, the car is the problem. Most personal finance content targets the lattes because they are easy to discuss and do not make anyone feel attacked.
The car generates defensiveness, which is precisely why it so rarely receives the attention that its actual scale demands.
The second reason is duration, a spontaneous purchase, a vacation, a jacket, a dinner out, costs you once, and is done.
A car payment runs for 60, 72, or 84 months on autopilot. By the 6th month, your brain has reclassified it from a loss into a fixed cost, something simply owed as part of existing.
The payment becomes part of the financial background, invisible by familiarity, but it is not a fixed cost.
It was a choice.
A single choice made on a single afternoon in a showroom that now extracts money from your financial life every month for years while the asset it purchased becomes steadily less valuable.
The payment does not feel voluntary anymore, but it began as one. The third reason is social identity.
No other consumer purchase in American life broadcasts as continuously or as broadly as a car. Your home is seen by your immediate neighbors.
Your wardrobe is seen by people in your proximity.
But your car is seen by every driver you pass on the highway, every person you park near, every stranger at a school pickup line or drive-through or first date.
It communicates a signal about your economic standing to hundreds of people per day. And because American culture has deeply embedded the equation between visible spending and achieved status, an expensive car reads as evidence of success.
A reliable but modest vehicle reads as evidence of struggle, or at best, ordinariness. That social read almost always inverts the financial reality.
Person in the least premium vehicle is frequently the person losing the most ground financially.
The person in the paid off economy car is frequently the one whose investment account is growing at a rate that would surprise everyone in the parking lot.
Daniel's Audi costs $8, $187 in monthly lease payments, plus $3, $158 in insurance. Luxury vehicles carry meaningfully higher premiums, plus an estimated $25 per month, more in premium fuel than standard.
Grade, his total monthly vehicle expense exceeds $170 on a $91,000 salary. That is nearly 17% of gross monthly income directed toward a depreciating asset.
Standard financial planning guidance suggests total transportation costs, payments, insurance, fuel, and maintenance combined should remain below 10% of gross income.
Daniel runs 70% above that threshold every month and will restart the entire cycle in 36 months.
Claire's total monthly vehicle cost, averaged across her full ownership period, runs approximately $470, including all expenses.
On her salary, that represents roughly 5% of gross income, half the recommended ceiling, the annual dollar gap between their respective vehicle expenditures is approximately $9,600.
Every year, that amount flows from Daniel's future toward a leasing company, an insurance carrier, and a fuel pump.
Every year, Claire redirects an equivalent sum into an index fund, compounding quietly at 8%. Here is a finding from the research that stayed with me long after I first encountered it.
Thomas Stanley, in his foundational work on American millionaires, identified a specific subgroup he called used, via goal-oriented buyers, people who consistently chose pre-owned cars rather than new
ones across their entire adult lives. This group recorded the highest frugality scores in his entire database. They also showed the highest net worth to income ratios of any segment he studied.
Dollar for dollar of income earned, the used car buyers accumulated more wealth than any other category of millionaire in the research.
They invested a larger share of their annual income. They were the most consistent savers and the most resistant to what behavioral economists call lifestyle inflation, the tendency to expand spending proportionally as earnings increase. Stanley's conclusion was unambiguous. Frugality was not a symptom of this group's wealth. It was the direct cause of it.
The modest car was not a sacrifice they made despite accumulating wealth. It was the mechanism through which they accumulated it.
Let me make this concrete with real people at real scales of wealth. Warren Buffett drove a 2014 Cadillac XTS he purchased with hail damage, negotiating a lower price on cosmetic imperfections that had zero effect on performance. A man whose fortune exceeded $100 billion chose a dented car because paying full price for an undamaged finish made no rational sense.
Mark Zuckerberg has been documented driving an Acura TSX and a Volkswagen Golf. Vehicles priced in the $25 zeros, $0 to $35 zeros, $0 range.
Ingvar Kamprad, who built IKEA into one of the largest retail fortunes in European history, drove a 1993 Volvo 240 well into the 2000s, not because he could not access alternatives, but because
replacing a functioning vehicle with a more expensive one served no purpose beyond communicating status. He had no interest in communicating.
These are not people staging modesty for public relations purposes. Their relationship with money is structurally different from the cultural norm.
a car, to them, is a machine for moving between locations. The moment it becomes a signal, it shifts from a tool into a liability, not only for what it costs directly, but because financial decisions are now being shaped by what an audience thinks rather
than by what the math actually says.
Sarah Stanley Falah, who directs the Affluent Market Institute and extended her father's research, surveyed more than 600 millionaires and found frugality among their most consistent traits.
Her central finding, spending in expectation of future wealth, rather than in reflection of wealth already built, makes you dependent on the next paycheck, regardless of how large that paycheck grows. That describes Daniel exactly. He drives the Audi not because he is wealthy, but because he intends to be, and the car is the preview.
Except the car is consuming the very resources that would allow the actual version to be built.
Every $887 going to the leasing company never reaches his retirement account, never compounds, never builds the foundation he is projecting.
He is performing a financial future while preventing it. You are not building the life, you are running a very expensive preview of it.
I want to address the objection forming in some minds right now because it appears in virtually every conversation about this topic.
I need a reliable car. Cheaper cars break down, you get what you pay for. Here is what the data actually shows.
Consumer Reports reliability surveys consistently rank Toyota, Honda, and Mazda as the most dependable brands on the road, the same brands millionaires choose most.
A used Camry or Accord in the $18,000 to $23,000 range, 2 to 4 years old, has already cleared the steepest depreciation, may carry remaining coverage, and is built to run reliably past 200,000
miles with standard maintenance. That is not a gamble. It is a proven product purchased after someone else absorbed the first large drop in value.
The cheap cars break argument applies to $3, 0 to $5, 0 vehicles with 160 0 miles and no inspection history.
Nobody is recommending that. The millionaire range $15, 0 to $30, 0 used from proven brands, driven until fully exhausted, is where reliability and cost efficiency converge best.
A Wall Street Journal survey found that 35% of respondents believed you needed to drive a vehicle priced at $75, 0 or more to be considered genuinely wealthy.
When Thomas Stanley applied that threshold to his actual millionaire database, more than 90% of those millionaires would have failed to qualify by the public's own standard.
9 out of 10 actual millionaires drive cars that average Americans do not associate with wealth.
Let me run a complete 30-year comparison because the lifetime cost of this decision deserves to be seen in full.
Person finances a new $46,000 vehicle at 7% interest over 72 months. Monthly payment $804. Total paid across the loan term $57,888. After 6 years, the vehicle is worth approximately $18,000. Net cost after resale $39,888. Person trades it in, signs a new loan, and repeats.
Across 30 years and 5 purchase cycles, person spends approximately $199, $440 on vehicles, not including insurance, fuel, or maintenance.
A paid-off car exists in their possession for only a few months between each new obligation before the cycle restarts.
Person B purchases a 3-year-old certified pre-owned vehicle for $21,000 in cash, drives it for 8 years, and sells it for $7,500.
Net cost $13,500 spread across 8 years, approximately $141 per month. Across 30 years and 4 vehicles, person B spends roughly $54,000 total.
Net lifetime difference, approximately $145,000, but that is the smaller number. The larger number comes from what person B does with the monthly difference.
The gap between person A's $804 monthly payment and person B's $141 per month cost is $663. Invested consistently at 8% over 30 years, $663 per month grows to approximately $988,000. Nearly $1 million from a vehicle decision, from the choice to drive a reliable used car rather than finance whatever the lender was willing to approve.
That is the mathematics of the parking lot. That is what is happening beneath the surface when two people pull into the same garage every morning in very different cars.
One is compounding toward $1 million. The other is paying a recurring monthly fee for the impression of having already arrived there.
Now I want to go beneath the numbers because the math alone does not answer the most important question. If the calculation is this clear, why do so many people continue to ignore it?
The answer is identity. For most Americans, the car is the primary daily transmitter of economic status. Your home is visible to neighbors, your clothing to coworkers.
But your car is seen by everyone in traffic, at school pickup, at a gas station, or a first date, broadcasting who you want to be understood as to a continuously rotating audience. American culture has equated visible spending with achievement, so a premium car reads as success and a modest one reads as limitation.
That signal almost always inverts the financial truth. The least luxury driver is frequently losing the most ground.
The 4-year-old economy car driver is frequently the one whose account statements have stopped feeling real.
Daniel receives compliments on the Audi regularly. Claire has never received a single compliment on the Honda. But Claire's portfolio has been compounding at approximately 8% annually, while Daniel collects parking lot recognition from people who will forget what he drives within a week and who have no
knowledge of or stake in his actual financial position. When you genuinely understand that dynamic, the psychology of the car purchase reverses entirely.
The person in the modest car is not the person who cannot do better financially.
That person is the one who has concluded that impressing strangers is not a rational deployment of compounding capital. They have accepted being financially unremarkable to people who will never know or care about their actual balance sheet in exchange for building real freedom.
This is what the research captures when it describes spending in anticipation of wealth rather than as a reflection of it.
The expensive car is that anticipation made physical, a deposit on an identity the finances have not yet earned, paid for with money that would otherwise have built the underlying reality.
The bitter irony is that each payment on that car pushes the actual reality further out of reach.
Every lease renewal extends the gap between the person being performed and the person who could genuinely be built.
The car you cannot quite afford is a down payment on a future you are actively preventing.
Let me bring this to a close with one final direct comparison between Daniel and Claire, because I think there is a version of each of them somewhere in everyone watching this.
Daniel is 36.
If he returned the Audi this month, purchased a reliable used car outright, and redirected the freed monthly cash into a low-cost index fund for the next 24 years until age 60, that sum at 8% annual
returns would grow to approximately $831,000. He would arrive at retirement with nearly $1 million in additional wealth from a single behavioral shift.
Not a career change, not a business, not a complex investment thesis, a different car,